What up, UFC T-Dot breakdowns? Like, subscribe, all that stuff. We're here to talk about UFC 276. It was a big card, stacked top to bottom. A lot of fighters that people should recognize, people should know by name. Some good fights, some not so good fights, some fights that people are very upset about. But yeah, let's get right to it. Man, this fight card was crazy, man. Very first fight, Jessica Rose Clark comes out to Shawn Michaels' Sexy Boy. The theme music from Shawn Michaels back in the day, which really brought me back. Start the night off good for me. DC also loved it. DC was commenting on it. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Jessica came out and lost the fight. She was doing pretty well when they were on the feet, but her last loss was an armbar, and this fighter's like specialty is arm bars, and just took her down and got her in an armbar and snapped her arm. Because I just saw Jessica Rose Clark on some social media like getting her arm looked at, and it's like swollen and it does not look good, and it's days after the fight. She says she might have to get surgery for her ACL, I think. Yeah, I don't think the ref was slow, right? But she was tapping. Snap. Also, her opponent, when she was getting interviewed, was like, yes, before I was a little bit too tentative, so now I just snap it all the way through no matter what. I was like, oh my God, what country are you from that's the demeanor of snapping arms? But yeah, next up, we had Macy Barber versus Jessica Eye. Macy Barber is vicious, right? She seems sweet and nice. She's not. She's really mean in the ring. She won by decision over Jessica Eye, and Jessica Eye took her gloves off there in the ring and retired. She's had a pretty successful career. She never won the belt, but I mean, she's like Karl Malone. Like, yeah, he would be a champ if Jordan wasn't there. Valentina. But yeah, and I think she might have fought up there with what's her name? The Lioness too. Nunes. Next up we had Andre Munoz versus in my notes it says Uriah Faber. Uriah Hall. Uriah Faber against Uriah Hall. Man, I feel like Uriah Hall don't want to hurt people, but the best thing he does is hurt people. I don't know what it is about that guy, but I feel like he's so skilled and talented to be so bad. I mean, just looking at his record, like he looks good in the ring in every fight. Even when he loses, there's moments where he looks really good and you're just like, oh man, this guy's next level. I don't think he likes to hurt people. This is my personal opinion. If he had Justin Gaethje's mind, he'd be a world ender. But yeah, he just got out jiu-jitsu'd by Andre Munoz. Decision loss for Uriah Hall, not Uriah Faber. Although I'm pretty sure he was there in somebody's corner. Maybe not that fight, but somewhere. Next up, we had Brad Tavares versus Dricus Du Plessis. Dricus Du Plessis, that South African kickboxer, I believe. He's tough. I think he's knocked out all of his opponents until this fight, if I'm not mistaken. He beat Brad Tavares up though. Like, Tavares came in with like a blonde thing in his hair. By the end of the fight, it was a red thing in his hair. His face was all mangled. I mean, he hung in there though, and he was landing bombs too, but it didn't matter. It was a war, that fight. Probably fight of the night, that fight. And Dricus won by decision. Next up we had Ian Gary versus Gates. I'm saying, man, these names, like, depending on which year and event we're talking about, these names could be like main card fights. Anyways, or will be main card fights. Like, I feel like that about virtually every name on this fight card. Either they will or they could have been main card fights or fighters. It's crazy. Yeah, Ian Gary versus Gabe Green. This one was a war also. Ian Gary was just better. That's it. He won by decision. Next up, we had Miller versus Cowboy Cerrone. This is a crazy fight. The winner of this fight is the most winningest man in UFC history. They're both legends of the sport. And then it's just a crazy. And then like Cowboy had 2 fights canceled with Joe Luzon in like the last month, so it's good for him to finally get out here. The fight itself was not so eventful. They were pretty. It's kind of chess matchy. I mean, 2 grizzled vets, not trying to get knocked out, being careful, but feeling the water a little bit. Cowboy landed some really amazing combos like he do. Miller slapped the shit out of Cowboy a couple times. At some point, they both kicked each other. Miller's kick hit Cowboy in the body and threw him off balance. Cowboy landed the head kick, but Cowboy fell, and Miller fell onto the guillotine, and he had Cowboy's arms trapped in the guillotine, so there was just no escape for Cowboy. And so I couldn't see the tap. I'm not sure. He might have verbally tapped, because like his arms were trapped in the guillotine. So Cowboy tapped, and then so Miller won by decision, guillotine, or decision by submission, guillotine, and then Cowboy took off his gloves. So Miller, gentleman, let Cowboy actually get interviewed before him, even though he won the fight. And Cowboy said he went ahead and hung up his gloves. He said it was time. He said, I just don't love it anymore. I'm going to be a movie star, baby. So yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I gotta be honest. I was a little emotional on Cowboy, and it's like I felt like it was time. I felt like this was coming. To be honest with you, he filming movies, his fights getting canceled. Like I felt like it was time. But also, I love Cowboy. Cowboy Cerrone is one of my favorite fighters of all time. He's just down to go. He's always fun. He's pretty respectful, no matter who he's fighting. And he's had some legendary knockouts with just like 8-piece combo. 8-piece anyways, but yeah, so congratulations to Jim Miller, all-time UFC win leader. And I really love the way he showed so much respect and let Cowboy get interviewed before him, knowing that Cowboy was retiring. It was dope. Next up, we had Brad Riddell versus Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner from Fontana. It's the Inland Empire. That's where I'm from. It's crazy that there's so many fighters in the UFC representing the IE doing well. And then there's some that aren't doing so well, but I like that there's a lot of representation of the IE. That's where I'm from. Yeah, so this Jalen Turner kid, man, he's dangerous. So Brad Riddell is a really good fighter. He fights out of the city kickboxing with Volkanovski and Israel Adesanya. He's really good. And with Hooker, don't forget Dan Hooker. But Jalen Turner, man, he's on some different stuff, man. He cracked Riddell and jumped on this one-arm guillotine. And it's crazy because DC was like, oh, he's got it under the neck. And Joe Rogan was like, it's just one arm. And he had the one arm so tight, he was able to just maneuver until he got the other arm in. He ended up switching over to mount, locked it in. 45 seconds into the fight. Yikes. 45 seconds into the yikes. He got that Jalen Turner's scary, man. Like, he's really looking good. And, when I say the IE, like, Bobby Green, Kevin Holland, they all from the IE. So, there's other fighters. It's not just them. There's other fighters that are not coming to my mind right now, but there's a few fighters I've seen in recent events from the Inland Empire. And like, I always try to show love to all those fighters. I'm rooting for them no matter who they fighting, just because they from where I'm from and I know what it is. But yeah, and during his interview, Jalen Turner said, I don't get paid by the round, so I win and I'm out. Next up, you got Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Pedro Munoz. Every fight on this card could be a main event, or like on the main event of a pay-per-view. You get what I'm saying? Like every fight, even the very first fight, is crazy. Sean O'Malley versus Pedro. They were O'Malley chants immediately. Pedro was throwing crazy leg kicks, but like Sean was checking him, and he was checking a lot of, he was checking him hard. Like he wasn't checking him like lifting his leg up so there's less impact. He was checking him like you're hitting a tree, like standing on it. I think he was messing up Pedro's leg more than Pedro was messing up his legs with those leg kicks. And he didn't really get to get cooking like he normally does, but towards the end there, he was starting to cook. He was starting to land those combos, throwing unconventional things, getting into his flow, into his movement. And I think he was really beginning to pick Pedro apart. And I think Pedro knew. And he scratched Pedro in the eye. I think he poked Pedro in the eye, but I think he also punched Pedro in the eye with a jab first, and that's what caused the damage, because the actual eye poke, to me, and I'm not a doctor, but to me, the eye poke itself did not look that bad. Pedro's claiming he has a scratched cornea. I think that scratched cornea came from a jab. I think O'Malley threw a jab early on that scratched his eye. That Pedro, because he said that's the second time, but there was only one eye poke. There was a groin strike before. But yeah, I could be wrong about that. That's just my personal opinion, that O'Malley was already picking them apart. And not necessarily to say that Munoz took the easy way out, but I don't know. It smells a little funny to me. I don't know. I just feel like Pedro saw the writing on the wall. Not necessarily that he couldn't win, but just maybe he knew that if his eye was compromised, he couldn't win. And the eye poke was the out he needed from his eye getting compromised from the punch. And so instead of losing because of the eye poke, he got the no contest. Instead of losing because of a punch to his eye, he got a no contest because of a poke to his eye. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying his injury is not legitimate. I'm just saying I believe a punch caused the injury, and a poke was a way to get out without having to lose the fight. I don't even think it was on some like fear of O'Malley type of lose the fight. Just on some fear of judges or the doctors stopping the fight because he can't fucking see. You know what I'm saying? And it going down in a way where it's a loss on his side. I hope that's coming through clearly. Anyways, it was also, when you look at the eye poke, Sean's hand was like this. It wasn't out. It was up. He was pushing, and Pedro leaned into his. It's funny too because as I was typing, it looked like Sean was finding his flow. I swear to you, I was typing it like during the event. I'm like, it looked like Sean was just finding his flow too. As I was typing it, Rogan's like, and he's finding it. He was just looked like he was getting into his flow. I swear, same time. All right, we just like minds. All right, next up we got Robbie Lawler versus Brian Barberena. Again, these are some big. This card was stacked. This one was another war, as advertised. I mean, just let's see who could punch each other in the face the most times. John Anik yelled out as advertised, because I mean it was. Robbie landed a crazy good uppercut, like in the first or second round. Like it didn't knock him out, but it was such a sweet uppercut. Barberena was landing some crazy elbows, like one after another. Boom, boom, boom. But yeah, man, it looked like they were hitting each other with baseball bats. Like they were really digging into each other. Yeah, it was crazy. Barberena ended up, I'm not sure if he knocked out Robbie or if he TKO'd him. I mean, Robbie wasn't out. The ref stopped it to save Robbie from himself. But, and then Barberena asked Dana to raise the fighter bonus to $100K. I love it when fighters ask for money on the mic like that. Dana's not even listening, number one. But number two is every once in a while it works. So, for some reason, in between this fight and the next, there was a Izzy Adesanya Elden Ring promo that just really bothered me. I don't know why. It just did. I didn't like it. No thanks, Izzy. I don't even think he played Elden Ring. Anyways. All right, next up we got Alex Pereira versus Sean Strickland. Alex Pereira is the guy who beat Izzy Adesanya twice in kickboxing. We all know Sean Strickland. That guy is a very interesting character. Alex Pereira knocked him out with one punch. I mean, he knocked him down with one punch and landed a second punch, which is probably the KO punch. But I mean, he looked out before that second punch. Sean Strickland is a very tough dude who takes a lot of punishment. And all I have to say after that fight was, uh-oh, Izzy. Uh-oh, Izzy. Yikes. That left hook. Yikes. Right straight to finish, man, as he was falling. And then he brought up Izzy in the post-fight. He said he's coming. And what's crazy is he asked the crowd to cheer for Izzy tonight. Passive-aggressive cage fighter for the win, right? Ooh. All right, next, in between this, they just showed a bunch of people in the crowd. It was funny that Shaq was there for some reason. He was like randomly elbowing the dude next to him. I hope he knew him. Anik they showed Dustin Poirier and his wife, and John Anik's like, look at Dustin Poirier and his lovely wife. And Poirier literally, as soon as he sees the camera, turns away from his wife and grabs Justin Gaethje, and they hug each other in the camera as Anik's saying Dustin Poirier and his lovely wife. He said her name and everything, but yeah, he only hugged Justin Poirier. Yuri, the new light heavyweight champion, shaved off his hair. Looks pretty good. He looks sharp, actually. I didn't even recognize him until they said his name. Co-main event, Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. Before I even start talking about this fight, I have to just a disclaimer, right? Alexander Volkanovski is one of the best fighters in the UFC. He might be pound for pound. Like, he's really good. The way he beat Max in this fight, outstanding. With all that being said, I feel like he is constantly on the verge of calling someone a monkey. Like, he just seems so racist to me. Like, no matter what, anytime they're doing a press conference and anyone of color says anything to him, he's always just like, whatever, bro. That motherfucker racist. You can't tell me no different. That's fine. I like my racists open and honest about it. Anyway, I'm not taking anything away from his ability to fight. And he doesn't conduct himself in any kind of deplorable way either. It doesn't change the fact that every time Izzy says something to him, he want to throw a banana at him. I can see into that dude's soul. I'm telling you, he's racist, man. All right, I can't prove it or explain it. I have no evidence of any of this. All I'm saying is, watch him every time somebody of color talk to him. He'd be like, yeah. That's right. I'm the champ. That's him suppressing the slur he was about to say. I'm probably wrong. He probably loves his wife's black, and he's like goes to Izzy's to eat Nigerian food, right? I'm just telling you how he appears to me. That's all I'm saying. He's a great fighter. Great. He really beat Max Holloway this time. The first fight I felt was close. Probably Volk. But I personally felt like Max won it. But going back and revisiting it, I think Volk won that first fight. The second fight was very close, but I think Max won it. This fight was not close. This fight looked like when he fought T City. This Alexander Volkanovski's on a different level, man. And he's leveling up. And Max is leveling up. But he isn't keeping up with this guy anymore. That's how good he is. Not that Max isn't good. Max is better than everyone else put together, just not him. You get what I'm saying? Like, this Volkanovski dude, like, I think he has to go up or go down. I hope he goes down and beats the shit out of Henry Cejudo. That's what I hope he does. Not even necessarily that he's going to win against Cejudo. Just, he going to beat Cejudo up. Even if Cejudo wins, he going to beat him up. That's what Volkanovski do. He bullies people. It was a crazy fight. In the first round, Volkanovski was screaming, I'm too fast for him. And he was. And that's crazy considering he's fighting Max Holloway. It was a chess match, but it was nowhere near as close as it was. Nowhere near as close. This is a different fight. Volkanovski's message. Volkanovski won the fight by decision. His message for the fans afterwards was stand up for yourself, which I actually like a lot. And I respect that. I I wish he wasn't asking people to stand up for his racist ways, but I do respect the message that he's putting out. You should stand up for yourself. Don't be racist. Alexander Volkanovski. I don't know if that guy's racist. All right. In between the co-main and the main event, they were showing a crowd again, and guess who was at the event? Vince McMahon, Shane, Triple H, or not Shane. What's the daughter's name? Stephanie and Triple H were there, and then it made sense. Oh, that's how Jessica Rose Clark was able to come out to Shawn Michaels' Sexy Boy. And then, come to find out, Izzy Adesanya came out to the Undertaker wearing an Undertaker hat with an urn in his hand. I wish he had a pallbearer. All he needed was just a jiggly chin. Woo! That's all he needed. I mean, you know, Izzy's walkouts are like, I don't like them, but people like them, and as long as he's winning and he's the champ, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. I'm not trying to knock him. It's just not for me. Personally, I like how Robbie Lawler comes out to the ring. Focus, serious. He's about that business. Let's get down there, get this Vaseline on my face, get in this ring, get to punching and getting punched. That's what I like. But, you know, Izzy is doing his thing, and Izzy's fans love that shit. So yeah, he came out as the Undertaker. Cannonier's music, I believe, was himself. Like, I think it was his music. Because the beginning of it is a bunch of clips of him, like, saying stuff, iconic things that he said, things that are memorable. And then it goes into the song, and it was actually a dope song. I liked it. But, you know, it was kind of overshadowed by what Izzy did. And then Izzy just came out and Izzy'd Cannonier. Walked him down most of the fight, kept him at range, fainted him to death. Especially early, Cannonier was doing really bad dealing with the feints. Like, Izzy was throwing one punch for every 15 feints, and Cannonier was flinching 15 times and getting punched every time. Later on in the fight, he did begin to land a little bit, but, I mean, Izzy was never really out of control in this fight. Cannonier looked very frustrated at times because I think he couldn't hit him. I'm trying to see if there's anything in my notes other than what I'm saying. There was a point in round 3 where Cannonier got a real good clinch. But, I mean, he wasn't doing a whole lot of damage in that clinch. He just was kind of holding on to him. Izzy did get free with like 5 seconds left. And in them 5 seconds, man, I swear, Izzy got out with 5 seconds left. It was like knee, head kick, punch, 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 knee, head kick. Like, he just, he went crazy for that last 5 seconds. But, yeah, Izzy was landing this stab jab, as Dean Thomas, As Dean Thomas called it, a stab. It was where he has his hand out this way, and instead of rolling the punch over, he just shoots it straight out like this. He was calling it a stab jab. That shit was killing Cannonier the whole fight. And in round 4, there was a point where Izzy was up on him, hitting him, and Cannonier couldn't hit him, even though he was up on him, and Cannonier just pushed him away like, oh! You know you frustrated when you want the guy who has the reach to get up off you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but he wasn't like cracking him so much as he just was on him, just bothering him, just in his face, and he wasn't being able to hit him back, so he was so frustrated. Izzy just Izzy'd him, man. I don't know how many times this guy got to do this to people before the fans stop going, oh, what was that fight? Oh, why did you just dismantle this man? Why did you turn this raging bull into a kitten? See, what people don't understand is that no one else can do that to Cannonier. That's why Izzy's the champion, because he's the only one that can do that to him. No one else can make him stop being aggressive. No one else can make him miss every time he throws a nuclear warhead at your face. At the end, Izzy praised his coach, and he praised Jared Cannonier, and he praised John Krause, which is very respectful. I like that. Then he said he was going to fuck up Alex Pereira. I'm looking forward to it. It sounds like the UFC wants it. Sounds like Alex wants it. Sounds like Izzy wants it. Hope he don't get knocked out again. I think that's it. If you're still here, Thank you for listening. Subscribe, like, follow. Just follow a thing, follow another thing. Like, subscribe, bell notifications. I don't know. I'm not even posting that much. It doesn't matter. I love you for listening this long. That's really special to me. Life been crazy. As you can see, I'm in the car. Kids are home from summer school. Banana shit going on in the other side of things. So, I'm out here for the quiet. It's so loud in there. There's TV, fucking fans, because it's hot now. Kids are screaming. I can hear my daughter scream. I hope it doesn't come through on audio. I can hear her screaming in the house from here, in the car with the windows rolled up. Anyways, that's it. Bye. UFC 276. It was good.